Hey guys, welcome back. I've been away from making these tutorials for a while, as you may see from the dates of release on YouTube. I want to talk about using effects, just really briefly about these different effects, what they are, why you would want to use them, inside tricks and tips inside the plugins. So first we want to talk about EQ. Why would you want to use an EQ? First of all, you want to use an EQ in order to correct the sound, meaning if you know how an acoustic guitar should sound if you were standing next to it in a room, then you hear a recording and it doesn't sound quite right. There's something about the tone quality that doesn't fit the instrument itself. An EQ can sometimes take care of that. It can get it sounding more like the natural instrument or voice. Second is that you might want to color the sound. You might want to flatter it a little bit, maybe with some high frequencies above 10,000 hertz or something like that. And there are different things you can do to flatter the sound to make it less authentic in terms of what it sounds like relative to the real thing, but it can flatter the sound a little bit with boosts or cuts in certain places. Let's take a look at Logic's EQ. The two ways you can open it up. One is you can go under Audio Effects into EQ and select the channel EQ. If you want, you can use the linear phase EQ. You can do some Google research on what that's all about. We won't take the time to explain it. But usually if I'm going to use a Logic EQ, it's going to be the channel EQ. I've not heard a difference. The way I activate it is I just double click where it says EQ here. Click, and that pops it open. This is what it looks like. If you want to make the interface larger or smaller, you can grab the bottom right corner and stretch it out. We'll have it supersized for today's presentation. In the world of EQs, there are two general types. One is called parametric, and that's what this is. The second type is a graphic. Let's take a look at what a graphic EQ looks like. There's one hiding inside Logic under Audio Units, Apple, and Graphic EQ, AU Graphic. And it looks a lot like the EQ that comes in iTunes. And you can choose whether it's 31 bands of equalizer or just 10 bands. So you have these. Are there presets available? Not really, but you could save presets. Typically, graphic EQs are used in live sound for anything to do with a speaker. So your main speakers might have a graphic EQ. In order to tune those speakers for that acoustic environment, you might make cuts around 300 hertz is a popular thing to do for a PA. Maybe some subtle boosts up high, very subtle. Nothing too crazy. And then you can flatten it here if you want. So that's what the graphic EQ looks like. It's also used in recording studios sometimes on your studio monitors, the speakers. If you know that somehow they're slightly inaccurate, if there's some kind of room mode at your mix position and you want to equalize that, you can use some kind of equalizer to take care of that. But let's talk mainly here about the Logic EQ. The three functions of a parametric EQ is one is your frequency selector. And you can see where these are defaulting to. You'll notice that the ends are grayed out. So if you want to turn on these sides, you can click here and it turns on these filters here. I use these probably more often than I use anything else in Logic's EQ, either the high pass or low pass. The second function of your EQ is are you going to boost it or are you going to cut it? And you can see that in order to boost it, you can grab the dot, pull it up or down to your liking, or you can go into this section and drag up or down. It's going to do the same thing. And I think you can drag up or down on that. And the final parameter of a parametric EQ is called the Q. It stands for quality. And if we you see what it's going to do? The higher the number, the more steep of a slope it's going to be, the less frequencies are going to be affected. If I make it a low number, more frequencies are being affected, as it looks more like a pitcher's mound and less like a needle. All right, so there are the different functions. The high pass frequency, HPF, as you scroll it up, it goes in here. You'll see it goes in increments of 6. 6 decibels in an EQ is referred to as a pole, P-O-L-E. So you can see it goes in single pole increments. It's a base 6 system. It's a steeper cutoff the higher we go. It looks like it goes up to 48. What is this one going to do? Oh, it puts a little bump there. Huh. All right. So you can put that where you want. You can automate this if you want. On a vocal track, this will make it sound more like a radio voice. I'll put a pretty aggressive high-pass filter on backing vocals, effect vocals if I just want to echo a lyric, like a quarter note or half note later, full measure later. It can sound kind of cool to put a high pass and then pan that echo into the right speaker or something like that. Those types of filters can be pretty fun. Low pass filters are pretty common for electronic dance music. You'll hear it on a synthesizer, and as the chorus is coming up, automation might have this filter kind of open up and give it a full sound. It sounds kind of muffled and cool. I've even heard this on the whole mix before in some pop music that has electronic influence, where it's all low pass filter. Only the low frequencies are allowed through. Then over time, this opens up. Let me show you real quick how to automate this. It'll just take a second. Now, if you were in Pro Tools, maybe some other DAWs, in order for you to automate this, what track am I on? I'm in this instrument track. In order to automate it, you would hit the letter A. It opens up our automation. And you can navigate to the function, but this is a huge list. There's an easier way to isolate the function that you want. And I can certainly find it. I'm smart enough to find that one function. But typically the way I do this is to put this track in touch mode. So now it's going to record everything I touch. So I don't have to hit record, I don't have to hit play. Let's go to the song beginning with return. I'm going to hit play, and as it's playing, I'm going to open up that EQ, and I'm going to I'm going to do anything with it. It doesn't matter what I do. I just need to get that data moving while the song is playing. I stop. Now, you'll see it recorded all that data, and if I play it back, where going to go? Let's move this down so you can see. So I play it back, it automatically does that. Once this is in place, I can just start drawing the automation I really want. Let's see, which way does this want to go? And so if over time, double click on that dot, it disappears. And here we go. Over 2 measures, that filter just automatically opens up. Isn't that pretty cool? And this little area here will drop down. If there are other parameters you want to automate, you can just start doing that. Then automate the volume. I thought you could do it more. Yeah, hit plus. Yeah, I may automate the pan. Have the sound zigzag between the speakers. Do what you want. There, you can see over here what's going on. Make sure to put this back in read mode. All right, so that was an unexpected detour, but hopefully helpful. All right, let me get back to my notes. Let's open up the interface again. Kind of a cool feature built into Logic's equalizer. Let's put this, let's go to a vocal track. Let's go to Andre, solo him, unsolo this instrument. I'm not sure you're going to hear this. I'm still having problems with my video capture software, but this should still be helpful. Let's go to hit play. Let's get my loop cycle thing here. So it's playing. Check it out. Built into the EQ is an analyzer, a frequency analyzer. You can see what frequencies are being sung by this musician. So if there's a problem frequency and you're not sure exactly where it is in the spectrum, this might be a good tool. So right now it's set up to read post EQ. So if I start attenuating things, it'll show what I'm doing. Let's make the Q a little wider so you can see what I'm doing in the readout. You can see if pre would tell you what the sound is like before my adjustment. Whoops, there we go, toggle pre. So now no matter what I do, it's still going to show me the constant true recording if it's in pre-fader. I'm not sure what Q couple means. Maybe that means all of the Qs stay the same, or they're linked. I would guess what that is. So that's kind of cool. And if this is not detailed enough, there's also a multimeter built into Logic. Sometimes this has not been as clear from my mixing and stuff like that. So if you go under metering, multimeter. So this is another one. It's going to do the same thing, more in a bar graph. What does this one do? Ooh. That's fun. So you can see as I make EQ adjustments, it should change that one as well. Etc., etc. Yeah. Okay. Really helpful. Just a couple more things. We'll wind it up. But a really helpful thing to do is to do some ear training for this type of equalization so that when it comes to correcting or even coloring the different sounds, no matter what you're trying to EQ, you would know approximately what frequency you're wanting to EQ. So it's kind of like going to the gym for your ears. There's an app called QuizTone. Where is it? No, it's in my dock. Yeah. I'm not finding it. Maybe it's just on my laptop. But QuizTone, let's pull up a couple of screenshots of that. QuizTone is a multiple choice game that allows you to practice hearing frequencies. Where's my images? My connection is not private. Attackers may be trying to steal my information. That's not good. Let me try again. I just want an image. QuizTone. QuizTone app. Photo. Yeah, so you can see what it kind of looks like, the app. It'll play a sound source, and when you hit this EQ button, a frequency is going to be boosted or turned down, and you have to guess what frequency is being adjusted, and it keeps score for you. So that's a great thing to be practicing for EQ and mixing. Great for live sound practice as well. Yeah, go to the gym for your ears. All right, the other thing I want to say is I love Logic, but I am of the opinion that every software is strongest relative to its origins. So when it comes to mixing and doing things in audio, since Logic did not begin as an audio software, it was a MIDI software, it's still playing catch up, or it's still strongest as a MIDI virtual instrument tool. It's certainly very usable as an audio mixing, audio editing, but other software I think does that better. And the update to Logic Pro X improved the audio engine greatly. So I am going less and less to other software for mixing. I'm doing all my projects right in Logic these days, because the difference is smaller and smaller in between Logic and its competitors. The competitors that started off as audio editing and mixing software. That being said, if you are familiar with other EQs built into other software, you will hear that Logic's is not as good as others. Especially if you're going to do boost on the high end, you start to hear the poor quality of equalization. That if you do this type of move in other software or even analog EQs, it sounds amazing. And if you do this in Logic, it introduces this real brittle, harsh sort of audio content. So that's not good. But there are some third-party things that you can use within Logic if that proves to be problematic. You know, me and other audio engineers I've heard on YouTube will use this default for making low-frequency cuts, no problem, or even mild cuts here and there. It's just when you come up to boosting in the high that this really shows its color, so to speak, its bad color. But there is third-party content out there. I like the Waves Renaissance EQ. If you shop places like Plug-in Alliance, you can sometimes get things like this on sale even cheaper than this. So that's something to be worth checking out. I did notice in this Plug-in Alliance website there are some free EQs. I've not tried this particular one, but since it's free, it might be worth a try. You can compare boost high frequencies above 4K, and you'll hear the difference. Another very popular EQ, especially among pop and electronic artists, is the FabFilter series. People rave about these filters. Filter is another word for EQ stuff. So FabFilter is fab. Maybe it has free demos you can try, so maybe check that out. I don't know the price of this stuff. If I put buy on this, what does it say? I think they have different packages. Oh, a total bundle is $750. I was freaked out there for a minute. So I'm sure if you just get single products, it's gonna be a lot cheaper. Let's see. Look at my notes. Talked about that. All right. Well, I hope this is a helpful tutorial about EQ. I encourage you to kind of put together a set of different sounds and to experiment with different EQs. If you have no idea what type of EQ to use, Logic did build in some presets. So if it's a vocal track, you can say, it's a female vocal, and it'll do something for you just so you can get a ballpark. It's always subjective to the individual voice and how loud it was recorded. You can adjust the overall curve here if you wish for some reason. What does this do? Yeah, so pull up different instruments and practice using the EQs and just kind of get used to what it does. I think the final thing I want to say is don't get fooled that if you're mixing a song and you solo an individual instrument and make it sound perfect, that once you unsolo it and get the mix playing back together again, that it's automatically all going to sound good together. You have to mix the instrument relative to the track. So mix it in context of the track. And usually what that means is you're going to, for things like piano, strings, guitars, maybe even drums, you're going to pull out a lot of the mid-low frequencies so that the vocal track can be heard in those frequencies. So by the time you're done EQing this, it might sound weird a little bit solo. It might sound a little bit unnatural, but in the context of the whole mix, it provides more clarity if you allow the lead vocal to kind of have those frequencies, 100 hertz to 400, somewhere in there. All right, well, I hope this is helpful information, and stay tuned. We'll be coming up with more tutorials about effects. All right, see you guys.